Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome to Leadership Insights Radio.
Thanks for listening in today. I'm Wade Taylor, and on today's show, we're doing another episode of our 2020 Business Vision podcast, where I'm talking to leaders around town to get their insights about what's going on in their industry and a better feel for what they see coming down the pike. And so I have the good fortune today of being joined by Greg Gibson. He is the Chief Creative Officer for Grizzly, and you can find him online at madebygrizzly.com, made by Grizzly, grizzly.com. And they are an ad agency, marketing agency, brand building agency. You know, it seems like you encompass quite a few things, although I love the philosophy that you were sharing with me about a holistic approach to brand building, because a message to take away and truly embrace is brand isn't just your logo, it's your philosophy. It's the customer experience. It's everything that you're offering to the outside world to make them know and appreciate what you do and truly value that. And Greg, you were mentioning that you really have a strong focus on keeping that holistic approach in mind through the entire creative process.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I think the idea for us is brand is this dynamic, fluid relationship between an organization and culture. That means the people that you come in contact with in the market. That means your employees, your stakeholders. And because it's dynamic and fluid, really it is this holistic thing that you need to continue to service, you need to continue to invest in.
Alrighty. And yes, it's an ongoing process. It isn't a one and done kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And so before we get into what you're seeing down the pike, tell us a little bit about what you do so the audience can understand where you're coming from and what your expertise is built upon.
Yeah, I think at its core, it's creative problem solving. So we get brought in by organizations, everything from Fortune 10, Microsoft, on down to a local startup in San Diego, and they've got a business challenge that we need to solve through creativity, and that looks like us getting in, really understanding that problem, whether it is a brand challenge that we can help bring to light, kind of purpose, etc., behind the business. And then everything from that to messaging, we can help them tell their story through video, through their digital experience, etc.
All right. And, those are some major players that you're dealing with. And, there's a lot of people that they can turn to. What is it about you that catches their attention that makes them recognize you're the people that can solve this problem?
I think it's a few things. So definitely a strong body of work, of transformative work for organizations. From day one, we understood that we are our portfolio. We are our body of work. I think it's also relationships. We've been incredibly involved in the community here locally and in the industry. And by building community, we understand that, that starts to, people start to understand our position. And then third, I think the idea for us of adventure and our flag, this idea that adventure is synonymous with creativity, really resonates. It's especially resonated in industries where people might not have invested in their brand, B2B and technology, et cetera. People really gravitate to this idea of being an adventurous brand.
Yeah, well, I love that. But I also like how you're pointing out that a lot of these B2B companies maybe don't appreciate that they do have a stake in brand. I think that they may be more dismissive of that. Is that something that you run across?
Yeah, I think B2, especially in B2B, you've seen the most change over the last 10 or so years. We're all humans, and people want to be talked to like humans, especially as the demographic of their audience gets younger and younger. People can sniff out the BS, and people want to be talked to and marketed to like people. And B2B has seen the most explosive growth in that area. And you see the way that startups and tech companies are starting to talk to people. It's much more human. It's much more like a consumer brand would.
Alrighty. So that gives us a little bit better feel for the kind of companies you're working with, the kind of work you're doing with them, and the energy that you're imbuing in the relationship. So as we look to 2020, what do you think people need to be aware of or focusing on as you strive to help them be better?
So I think it's a dichotomy. You on one end, there's a continuously growing list of things that you have to do, bar none, that you have to invest in order to be competitive. There's more channels than ever. There's more audience segments than ever that you need to service in order to be competitive. So being able to be proficient at creating content, at podcasting, at telling your story, at being nimble. Those are the areas where I think businesses need to know how to be nimble, know how to partner with the right teams, but also how to build expertise in house in order to stay relevant in all the places that you need to stay relevant. And then I think the other side of the coin is being able to go away from all of those kind of quote unquote best practices and chart your own path and be able to find what are we going to do to express our brand that's completely different. How can we leverage creativity to do what hasn't been done before?
Right. Now, in our prior conversations, you mentioned being a musician, and this kind of reminds me of that rule of art that I've heard. You need to learn all the rules so then you can break them.
Absolutely.
And so, how does that musician's background kind of tie into this creativity as you're trying to advise people that don't get caught up in the processes, understand the underlying concept story thing that you're trying to share?
Yeah, I think it's a few things. It's improvisation. It's being comfortable with change because there's never been more change than ever, and so you have to be able to navigate that. I think the other thing is the idea of proficiency lets you be free, and so the experience with that has informed how we do work at Grizzly. It's that mix of both of those things.
Okay, so we've got a couple of minutes left, and I've got a couple more questions, but it sounds like the big 2020 business vision that you're wanting to share is double down on creativity and understand that that's going to be a very flexible, a very malleable experience. Don't try to lock it down too much.
Yeah, I'd say it's double down on creativity, and then it's invest in telling your story. You see brands like Yeti, like REI, like Glossier, a lot of these new brands or old brands that have really kind of been able to keep with the times, invest in telling the story of their consumers. It's not advertising, it's just storytelling, and it builds community. And I think that's where people start to see you as authentic and something that they want to participate in.
Yeah, and you do have to invest time into knowing your community, interacting with your community to truly be relevant to them. Well, with about a minute left, I'm going to throw two questions at you. They're just two kind of quick questions. Answer them as you see best fit. What is something that you wish people would start doing in 2020, and possibly is there something you wish they would stop doing in 2020?
Start thinking about the experience that your customers want to have, and create from there. And stop doing Stop doing the things that you've been doing that aren't working, because frankly, there's a lot of wasted energy for the businesses that we work with.
Essentially break old habits.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, we're going to be wrapping this up now. I'm speaking today with Greg Gibson. He is the Chief Creative Officer at Grizzly, and you can learn more about Grizzly at their website, madebygrizzly.com, madebygrizzly.com. We're going to be back next time with more great information on our continuing series of 2020 Business Vision as part of the Leadership Insights radio series powered by WSRadio.com. We are the worldwide leader in Internet talk.